everybody, WMNF, we are back. So today I'll bring something that Chico never heard before. Rodriguez. No, you heard several times Rodriguez, but I thought this was time for WMNF to play Rodriguez. Rodriguez, for those who doesn't know, is an American, in fact, an Hispano-American artist. He's a son of Mexicans, and I'm not sure he was born in Detroit, but he lived in Detroit all his life. Made two albums, 1969, 1970, and then his career was not going anywhere. Then he gave up. And it was one amazing thing about Rodriguez is how he's a very, very nice human being. He was, in fact, he died like 2 years ago. 8 August 2023, Rodriguez died. Sisto Rodriguez was his full name. And he was a man full of dignity. So he made these two albums. The albums did nothing. Then he went back to working in construction. Hard worker in construction. Raised the three daughters. All the three daughters are very fond of his effort to give them the best education and to give them an appreciation of art. So he's an amazing guy. And he was basically not really knowing anything about his albums. And while he was there working construction, his albums were made in incredible success in South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. It is said that he sold in South Africa more albums than Elvis Presley, possibly even more than the Beatles. So he was incredibly famous. But in South Africa, during the apartheid times, nobody knew who was Rodriguez there. I don't know about the story from Australia and New Zealand, but in South Africa, nobody knew anything about him, and they were saying there that he's committed suicide on the stage by putting fire on himself. That was the story in South Africa, when South Africa, under the apartheid regime, was very isolated from the rest of the world. And then one journalist and one owner of a record company discovered that Rodriguez was alive, made contact with him through his daughter, and he went to South Africa and made some sold-out shows. And what is amazing is that he was not playing for almost 3 decades, but he went there, went onto the stage, did his thing, very well done, and the audience was crazy. So all this story is told in the movie, in the documentary Searching for Sugar Man, which you who are listening to us and doesn't know this documentary should take a look at that. I discovered this documentary when I went with my friend Pedro Rocha to the Kalahari Transfrontier Park in South Africa. We stayed several days there, I think 2 weeks or 2 weeks and a half. And the flight back home, I was there missing the Kalahari experience. And then first I saw a documentary on the Kalahari from the Africa series. And then later on appeared this suggestion of seeing this thing called Searching for Sugar Man. And I was astonished after it finished because I didn't know who Rodriguez was. I didn't know this story, and it's quite a story. And as you soon see, he deserves the fame. He's a great composer, singer, and acoustic guitar player. But we'll move to the music later because I'm talking too much. I need to leave space for Chico to say something.
Hi everyone. I don't know if my voice is okay because I am in a precarious internet here
Precarious internet.
here where I am. But it's Rodriguez. It's a great choice, first of all. But I think it's interesting choice to me in this context because this week I heard "Only God for Conversation." It's a song from one of the two albums of the Rodriguez, and I thought that could be my next one song.
Okay, okay.
So I think we crossed the the ideas in this one. Was interesting.
So you thought about Only Good for a Conversation, the first album, yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm bringing something from the second album. So I bring in Sandrevan Lullaby and Lifestyles. So we talked too much. It's time to share the music. So if you don't know Rodriguez, be prepared. It's a great experience. And we'll play today two tracks. In fact, they are second. It's two tracks together from the second album by Rodriguez, which is called Coming from Reality. And the tracks are Sandrevan Lullaby and Lifestyles. Don't think it is something wrong because there's two small interruptions in the beginning. We were feeling this was strange, but we checked how is the tracks in Spotify and it is the same. So it seems to be from the track. I don't know. But let's go. Buckle up.
The generals hate holidays, others shoot up to chase the sun blues away. Another storefront church is open, sea of neon lights, a boxer his shadow fights, soldier tired and sailor broken. Winter's asleep at my window, cold wind waits at my door. She asked me up to her place, but I won't be down anymore. Judges with meter-made hearts, order supermarket justice starts. Frozen children in her city, walkers in the paper rain, waiting for those nights that never came. The hijack trying so hard to be pretty, night rains tap at my window. Winds of my thoughts passing by. She laughed when I tried to tell her hello only ends in goodbye. America gains another pound. Only time will bring some people around. Idols and flags are slowly melting. Another shower of rice to parrot for some will suffice. The mouthful asks for second helpings. Moonshine pours through my window. The night puts its laughter away. Clouds that pierce the illusion that tomorrow would be as yesterday.
Oh boy, that's so special that I couldn't stop. I didn't feel like stopping.
Yeah, it's difficult to cut a song like that. Uh, and I don't know what I can say about it because it's just a great song, very, very melodic. And the composition is special, like you said, because in the way that the arrangement of the music in the beginning, choice of the
It,
chords, crossing with the melody of the violin is very delicate and very, I can say that in English. So it's like
it,
lifting the spirit, you know,
yeah, yeah, it's elevating, yeah,
elevating, yes.
elevating. Yeah. And you got it
And
exactly. It's the string arrangement and his interpretation in the acoustic guitar because he plays rather well, but he composes incredibly beautiful harmonies and melodies. Yeah, that's one of his characteristics. And the string arrangement in this track is something, yeah. What a beautiful
Yes.
string arrangement, and makes the perfect counterpoint to how he is interpreting the song in the guitar and in the voice. Yeah.
Interesting is the way that was recorded uh, make you feel that it's not so well worked. No, it's so well composed and thought and elaborated, but the way it was recorded was like the gaps we can hear in the beginning, the end of the parts that there is a jump and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
is
I don't
it's
I
like
never I never pay attention to this before. So it was the first time I pay attention to these very small gaps.
yes, in the arrangement of the chords in the middle of the song. Uh, I don't know, maybe it's a keyboard. It's not a orchestra.
No, no,
I
no,
don't
no. It
know.
is it is
Is
strings. It is strings. Yeah, it
is
is. It is. This is in the credits. Not a full
okay.
orchestra. Is a violin, a cello. I don't know how
Yes,
many
but
instruments.
in some points of the song we can hear like main strings, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know if it's a keyboard simulating an orchestra. I don't know. I'm not sure, but
yeah,
the violin for sure it's a really violin. It's
yeah.
uh,
Might have keyboards combined with the orchestra. The thing that I know that there are truly strings, and it's so beautiful. The cello and the violin is so well played and very beautiful, and the lyrics are amazing
yes,
too. And while I was listening to the track, I was paying attention to the cover. So this cover is the second album, Coming from Reality. So this is a guy who lived in a very poor neighborhood. He was a very poor guy. At that point, he was working as a dishwasher in a restaurant while making his recordings. And he would be strolling around the poor neighborhood in Detroit where he lived with his guitar, playing in bars. And some people thought he was just a bump, just a beggar. Didn't
exactly.
really know that he had a house and he had a job because he was
This
so outside.
mm,
And the cover shows this. You see, he's in an abandoned house. You have this window. He's has something in his hand, looks like a piece of glass, and there is also some glass broken here, an empty bottle, and a lot of dirt and a broken chair. So it's an amazing, amazing image. And by the right, there's something that I don't know what it is. Perhaps some graffiti on a wall. Looks like someone with glasses. So it's a great cover that represents a lot about who he is.
yes, it is why I made that commentary about the. It's not the quality of the recording, is the style. I think it's intentional. That
Mm.
is not
Yeah, yeah.
so is it no don't sound like a expensive production, you know,
No, no, he didn't
because
have much money, but
because
he had
could
a great
be a
producer.
song like
He had a
that
great
could be
producer.
a great recording, you know, but in this sense that I'm not critiquing
I
in a
see, I
bad
see.
way, you know. I just want to point out just this what you said about the environment that he
Yeah,
lives and used to live in. And
yeah. And he lived in the same neighborhood up to the day of his death. He lived most of his life in the same house, a very old house. And it made me want to see Searching for Sugar Man again. I saw it many, many times. And in Search for Sugar Man, the producer of his albums, I think he's a producer of this second album. He's a well-known producer, produced a lot of important artists. And he says, well, no. Rodriguez was my most memorable artist. And this guy produced very famous people. I don't remember the names, but he produced a lot of famous people. He thought it was his most memorable. And he says, well, this album, particularly coming from reality, he said this album had it all to be incredibly successful. And he was comparing him to Bob Dylan, saying the lyrics are as deep, as profound as the lyrics by Bob Dylan. The composition is amazing. So they had the right arrangements, he thought, but the album did absolutely nothing. And then he says that the last track in this album, it's called Cause. He says, because I lost my job 2 weeks before Christmas. And then the producer says, well, the recording company dismissed Rodriguez 2 weeks before Christmas. So that's a haunting story. And so he gave up his career because of that. Yeah. And it's a sad story, but at the same time, when you see his story, he had a great life. Despite being a poor guy, living in a poor neighborhood, not being successful in doing his career, but had an incredible comeback for the last 10 years of his life. Not 10 years, almost 20 years. He enjoyed being very successful. But he didn't went into big tours. He didn't record a new album. He would simply go back to his place, do his work, his hard work, live in his poor house. And from time to time, he would make a show when people go after him and ask him to do a show. But it's not that he got back his career. He was not really interested, I think. And he says, he thought, well, I have it all. I have it all. I have it all I want. He was a great guy, great guy.
Uh, this song that I thought we could play it is just 2 minutes song.
You want to play it now?
Yes, it's a proposition.
It's only good for a conversation, yeah?
Only good for conversation. It's so nice.
And it's from the first album.
Catch
the first
me
album.
in the yes. Sometimes I'm here in shuffle mode.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's just
And
prepare things here. So the first album is Cold Fact. So in a pure improvisation, let's do a combined session with songs by Chico and by me. So
My pocket don't drive me fast. My mother treats me slow. My statue's got a concrete march. But you're the coolest bitch I know. The factory that you call your mind, graveyard thoughts of stone. A master thief, I wouldn't enter there. You've nothing I would care to own, so help me. Pretending that you got it made. You know I know you know no truth. You're still serving cookies and Kool-Aid. You're so proper and so cute. fast. My mother treats me slow. My statue's got a concrete heart, but you're the coldest bitch I know. So help me.
My statue's got a concrete heart.
Yeah, yeah,
Good,
great.
so good.
And this track's fantastic, completely different from the other. Very rock and roll.
Yes,
It's a very raw rock and roll. So it's a great
yes,
choice.
but they have this kind of special way to feel and describe the reality.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's why some people make connection between his way of composing and the lyrics with Bob Dylan, because you have this kind of chronicle of reality that he does, yeah. And this album is
yes,
fantastic too. So you see some industrial thing down here. Looks like what you would remember from Detroit, yeah. And then he's in a very enigmatic, yeah, with the hat, the sunshades, dressed in very strange clothes with a strange collar. And I think the fact that he's surrounded by these white things, because the guy who first discovered him, he had a hint about this guy who was playing some bar. So he entered the bar and he says, well, it's all very smoky. And then there was this guy with the back to the audience, he's strumming a guitar. And he said, wow. Then he starts singing. He said, wow, that's fantastic. And you see that he's there's some fog around him. And this is the kind of thing that increases the mystery around him. Always with the sunglasses, you don't see him quite well. And it looks like it's quite clear that he's American, but not the standard American you'd think, because he's a Hispano-American. And his name says that, Rodriguez. So could have been successful.
he projects the voice so well. I
Yeah,
think he has a great voice. It's a great vocalist because that.
yeah.
The lyrics is important in his work, and I think it's just characteristic of how he sing is special. Make his more special.
Yeah.
And there is some political point of view in song, for example. I think it has he talking about it, like this phrase that I said. My status has a concrete heart. So I think he's calling attention to don't idolize images, people, women, they call it
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
the mother. So
Many of his lyrics are very political, and he was singing like these stories about the poor neighborhood he lived. Similar to Bob Dylan, he invent names for the people and tell stories. He's a storytelling all the time. And you know that at one point in his life, he tried to become mayor of Detroit. So he ran for election, was not elected, had a very small amount of votes, but he tried to become the mayor of Detroit. And he always had these
I didn't know that.
political ideas of fighting for the poor people, and many of his lyrics are about that. Yeah, and I think you pointed to something in the combination. So he's a nice guitar player, nice acoustic guitar player. His voice is quite beautiful. He sings quite well, and the compositions are melodic and harmonically incredibly beautiful. And the lyrics are fantastic, and there's a very good fit between how he composed the song and what the lyrics are saying. So that's the package. That's what makes Rodriguez fantastic, I think.
Whole, the whole
What?
packet, the
Yeah,
whole
whole package.
packet of the artists.
Yeah.
And he has a political approach, but like in day by day
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
perception, not the proposing great tell us about how
No, no.
the world must
Was
be, should be.
was
So
about what he was seeing in the streets. How could it be better? I think. And it is tells a lot of story because he's in a country that even though it is an old democracy, always had problems with inequality and particularly for migrants like his father and daughter and mother who came from Mexico and yeah. So he was living all these things. And and he's one of the artists and I feel with him the same I feel with Nick Drake. So it would be fantastic if they had recorded more things. Because you listen to the two albums and then you don't have anything else to listen from Rodriguez. And I never saw any. There is one live album. There is one live album, but never saw anything that was left in the studio that was never released. I never saw like anything like that. So we have basically these from Rodriguez, these two albums. I compare to Nick Drake because Nick Drake have only three albums, but there are more left material that were launched after because after Nick Drake got more exposure. So you have some additional tracks from Nick Drake. But from Rodriguez, other than live recording, you don't have anything else.
yes, I
But
think
even
Nick
though
Drake
we can't
had,
predict what?
I think Nick Drake had a more influence in musicians around the world
Oh yeah,
than
yeah, 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 yeah.
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez became basically unknown, so nobody knew this guy
Yeah.
in Europe or US. But if you look to the South African, I don't know about Australia and New Zealand where he was also make success, but in South Africa, he was a big inspiration to a whole generation of musicians, and was for all of them were playing the beginning of the 70s. Rodriguez was a great. I think it's more to the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s. Rodriguez was a great influence, and particularly you have this group of white Africans, uh, people who were against apartheid, and they didn't have much space to voice their resistance and criticisms of apartheid because it would be very dangerous in their white Africans community to do that. And then, inspired by Rodriguez, they realized that they could do this by music. Exactly because Rodriguez was doing this with a political approach, but in a very subtle way with the lyrics of the songs. And so there is a many rock groups from South Africa from the 70s and 80s that influenced by Rodriguez played a role in voicing the resistance of the white Africans youth against apartheid. So he had an inspiration for musician, but in a very localized way in South
When
Africa.
you heard about him, his
And
work?
so that what was in 2015. 15, yeah. So I went to the Kalahari, then the flight back to Brazil from South Africa. There was Searching for Sugar Man in the entertainment system of the plane from South
So what
Africa.
was in Africa that you
I was
heard?
flying back. I was flying back. Yeah.
Uh,
And then
nice.
I put these. That was when the documentary ended up in the plane. I was like, what was that? So it was something like, well, yeah,
Ah,
took
the
my
first
breath away. It
approach
took my breath
was
away.
the documentary.
Yeah, at first I saw the documentary. I didn't know who Rodriguez was. Then I saw the documentary with all this amazing story about this guy.
I
Uh,
remember you talking about the documentary,
yeah.
but I thought that you already know the
No, no,
history.
no, no. But it was first of all, the story would be fantastic anyway. But then the music was fantastic too. So I realized that there was this great, great musician that I didn't have a clue it existed. So as soon as I arrived, I went after his songs. So back then, in the streaming, I couldn't find the Code Factor coming from Reality. They were not available on Spotify or in Deezer. But the soundtrack of the movie, of the documentary, was available. So the first thing I started hearing was the soundtrack. But then after a while, in streaming, the two albums appeared. I remember there was this live album I was mentioned was already in streaming, but I didn't have access to the original albums. But then, like 2 years later, they were there. And now you can find everything from Rodriguez in streaming. But okay, so that was it for today. First time going to Rodriguez. I think I can predict in the future we will play more Rodriguez because as we have been talking about him, you might guess that we like him a lot. So, but that was an interesting episode for us, and we improvised it into 2 tracks while only 1 track was playing. I think it was nice because we had this counterpoint between these 2 different styles that can show you all how versatile Rodriguez is.
There
Okay,
is more good stuff.
there is more good stuff. You'll see it. But that's it. Bye bye. Thank you for following us. And please subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying. Give us comments. We like to discuss with you. So thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye.